So today we're going to be fitting the electric smart tailgate kit to a Toyota Alphard, the AH30 version 2019, and this kit comes with the kick sensor. So we're going to be fitting that all in today, and we're going to be doing a step-by-step guide on how to do it. So opening up the box, you can see we've got a bunch of wires and accessories that are on top. We have here a little tool which they supply, a little hole saw tool. That will be for the button that goes onto the tailgate itself to make the hole in the plastic trim. This here is the actual control box. Pretty standard, really. Tells you what each terminal is for, and obviously we can mount that in using the screws as well on the sides. With that, we've got new brackets. These are for the new struts that they supply. These are the actual ones that go onto the door frame, the door itself, not the frame. And these are the other ones that go onto the car frame. And they are the bolts that come with it. So they give you new bolts. You know, you use the new bolts. You don't use the old bolts. Along with that, they give you a couple of bits and pieces. This is like a little Velcro strip that goes onto the back of the control unit. And then you've got a bunch of wires. And this is what scares a lot of people when they start doing jobs like this. It's all they see is wire after wire after wire, but it's not as bad as what you actually think it is. If you've got a little bit of knowledge on how to work on cars and car electrics, it should be fine. You shouldn't have a problem at all. So that looks like the main power cable. You can see the earth wire in now. You can see the ignition wires, live wires, and it's obviously a very long wire, and that's to go from the control box straight through to the front of the car, where it will hook up into the fuse box. One button. This will be your tailgate button. This is the one that you use the hole saw for, and that obviously links directly into the wiring. Then you've got another bunch of wires. Again, these wires here, you can see got numerous connections on there. Again, a lot of wires. Obviously another bunch of wires as well there, and another button which goes in the front driver's side, so you can open the electric tailgate up through the driver's side when you're sitting in the driver's seat. But these wires are basically, they're going to be internal into the actual tailgate itself, or that one definitely will be. That's like a link wire that goes from the existing lock. This car that we're doing it on, it's got the suction lock, so we don't need any more like catches or locks or anything like that. So this links directly onto that one, and that will be your feed wire again. That goes to the actual button that goes on the driver's panel. Let's supply you some little tyres. You've got 5 in a pack. That might not be enough, so you might have to supply some more of your own. And this is the kick sensor. Right, they call it foot sensor on there. Kick sensor, foot sensor is all the same thing. And we'll be going through on how to wire this one up as well. This is a job that you need to, the foot sensor and the actual kit itself is, you know, you can fit the foot sensor later, but because we've got all the car stripped down and we're doing all the wiring anyway, we might as well do that at the same time, because otherwise we've got to take some of the wires out just to put this in, so there's no point in doing that. We might as well just do it all in one go. On top of that, we'll take that out, and then you can see in there that we have the two main struts themselves. They come with a wiring loom, they come with the grommets that go into the holes, which you can see there. And these wires, they plug straight into the control box. It's a fairly simple setup. It's not, you know, too complicated. But like I said, I mean, if you've got the slightest knowledge on car electrics and how to do stuff like that, then you're not really going to get any problems. And that's it. So that's the unboxing of it. That's all the parts. So let's crack on with the job. Okay, so what tools I require for doing this job? Well, I would strongly advise that you have a lever kit for the trims. So many people, I've seen it so many times in the past, but use screwdrivers to prise out the little clips that hold trims in place. They either damage the clips or they damage the trims. They mark them. Having scratches on trims or a crack on the trim is not ideal at all. So just invest in a little lever kit. You don't have to buy one like this. This is a bit more comprehensive than most. They're only a few pounds, so it's worth just buying yourself a little kit just to make sure the job's done properly and you're not going to be damaging any clips or any trims. Other tools that you may require for doing this job, definitely be looking at some screwdrivers, maybe a posi drive, old school Phillips, flathead. You're going to need some wire strippers, you're going to need some pliers, you're going to need some wire cutters. I don't think there's much else that you're going to need apart from definitely a multimeter. You're definitely going to need a multimeter without a doubt. If you've got something like a power probe, then that would be ideal. Not necessarily required for that, to be honest, because the multimeter you can find live wires and earths and neutrals and stuff like that. The power probe is just a very quick, handy tool that pinpoints lives and earths. But the multimeter will do the job. If you have got one of these, then you know, ideal. But definitely a multimeter is required. Other than that, there's nothing really required than just some basic tools to do the job. So let's get on with it. So step one of the job will be to remove the trims around the tailgate interior. That is purely just a few, it's held in by clips, so we'll use the plastic lever tools to pop out the clips. You've probably got one in here that needs to be popping out, and then the rest just pulls off. But do it carefully, do it gently, work around. This comes in two sections, so you can see there it comes in complete two sections. So take one section off at a time, take out the bits and pieces, and it should all come off in one piece without any damage. Just be careful as you do it. So correction, this comes out in three pieces. As you can see, use the plastic levers and it all pops off nicely, and as you can see, some of it's now just being exposed as you work. One little noteworthy thing, when you are taking off these trims, make sure that you put them somewhere nice and safe. Do not put them directly under the car. You are only going to be stepping on them and you will break them. And trust me, trims for something like this vehicle are very expensive, so don't make that silly mistake. Just put them nicely, lay them out in the way that they've come, just like that, so you know exactly what goes where. And as you can see, using the plastic levers, you cause absolutely no damage to the trims whatsoever, or the actual trim clips. So it's absolutely ideal. Definitely invest in a plastic lever kit. Like I say, they're only a few pound. You can get them on Amazon and eBay and lots of Temu and stuff like that. You can get them anywhere. So just spend those few pounds just to do the job properly. Okay, so remove the plastic trim. There, that can be a little bit tight, so be careful. With these little clips here, you've got some little pushing inserts. Just simply push them in, and that will release the clips from inside there, and then we can continue by taking the rest of the panel off. Okay, so once you've loosened it all off, then just carefully bring it down. And as you can see, using the little plastic trim levers, it keeps it all in really good condition, and exposes everywhere that you need to get to. So obviously these are the rear light clusters here, so we don't want to be touching them at all. For wiring to the actual suction lock on here, this is where you need to be getting to. So this block here is where the first main bit of wiring connects. The first thing to do really is to have a look to see where you're going to be placing the control box, the best position for it. As central as possible, I would imagine, will be the best for this. Obviously with the Alphard, you've got, as with any other car really, you've got earth connectors, which you can link the earth connectors straight up, so you've got no problem with earthing.
The gas spring caps.
So the next job here, the next step would be to change the mountings, which will be that one, that one, that one, and that one. And these simply come off. You can see there's some little spring-loaded clips here that hold them in place. So you've got one on here, you've got one on there, and then obviously on the same on the opposite side. And these purely just come out by using a screwdriver and just prising them off. This is an important step, so you really need someone here to help you, because as soon as you release these struts, this tailgate is going to drop. And being such a big girl, if this tailgate drops, one, it could cause damage to the tailgate and possibly even smash the rear screen due to the force of it. But even more so, if it falls on your head, you are actually going to know it, because it is very heavy. So make sure that you've got someone to help you. Take off the clips one by one. They are tight. They're designed to be tight. And there you go, as simple as that. So a simple screwdriver and the clips. Okay, so before we remove the actual struts themselves, sort out your brackets. So we have here the new car body bracket, which is this one, and this one here is the tailgate door bracket. Each bracket is labelled, so you'll see, I don't know whether you can see it on the camera, hopefully you can, but you'll see that these are labelled R, as you can see there. Obviously R's for right hand. Same thing with the actual door bracket as well. The door bracket again has an R on it, and hopefully you can pick that up. Yeah, so R, and obviously the other side will have L's, which are exactly the same, but obviously left hand, as you can see, L's. So as with the brackets that go on the car on the door, that's labelled right and left, the same can be said with the struts as well. Each strut has an R and an L on them. This one is the left hand one, it has an L on it. I'm not quite sure whether the camera picks it up, but it does definitely have an L on there. So this will be left hand, and when you're looking at the back of the car, this is the left hand, that is the right hand. So as you can see, that will go that way. The wiring harness of the struts goes towards the top, so that will go there, because as we work on, we will remove this little grommet here, and the wiring goes within that hole.
And you get a new grommet.
And you've got a new grommet, obviously, there to seal it when the wiring has actually been inserted. when you do this job, I can't stress enough, make sure that someone is holding the tailgate. They need to do that whilst both struts are being installed. One strut will not hold the weight of this door, so do not be thinking that you can just literally do one strut and let go of the door. It will not happen. The weight of the door is too much and the door will fall. And I say these things are expensive, so if the door twists on its way down, then you're going to have all sorts of problems with door mounting being twisted and God knows what. So just get someone to hold it for you whilst they do the changing over of the struts and the brackets, and make sure you put right to right and left to left. So with the body bracket, you can see that you've got a countersunk hole here and a non-countersunk hole here. When you get the kit, depending on what kit you've got, you'll consider there's two types of bolts. So you get 6 of the countersunk bolts and you get 2 of the non-countersunk bolts. The 2 non-countersunk bolts goes into each bracket and it goes into the top hole. So when you install the bracket, which is like we have here, the countersunk screw and bolt goes in here, and the non-countersunk bolt goes in the top. Make sure you put the bolts in by hand first. Make sure they're doing up nice and loosely, and then tighten up. Last thing you want to do is cross thread these bolts. Do not over tighten. And that's the first one in, nice and simple. Another little hack that you can do if you haven't got any spare hands to help you is just do what we've done now. Just provide a bit of a support rod and hold the tailgate in place. Just make sure it's safe and secure, it doesn't hit you on the head. So the new left hand door bracket is going on now. Just ensure that when you put it on, you can see that there is a lip on the bracket itself. Make sure that is facing downwards and not upwards. That is the way that this is designed to be installed. And the same thing, just tighten up by hand and then nip them up once both are tight. Repeat this procedure for the right hand side. So when it comes to installing the actual struts, make sure you've got left to left, right to right. The wiring loom goes up the top, obviously that bit at the bottom connects to the door. Now with this you are going to need a second person because the door has to be lifted up. So the pole that I've used just to keep the weight of the door is no good because the doors has to be lifted up in order to fit the end of the strut onto the ball joint. So as you can see, there's not enough room with the door the way it is, so it needs to be lifted up for it to fit. So we'll go ahead and we'll do that now. Okay, so making sure that each side is securely pushed in. Make sure you hear the little clips click as you put onto both the ball joints on the on the door and on the frame. Do that to both sides like that. Make sure you've got the wiring to this side, same as this side, because this wiring now will go up inside to this hole. So the next step is to pop out the little rubber grommets. Like so, and when you've done that, it may be time to make yourself a cup of tea and just chill for a second. So a quick tip in threading the wiring. Obviously we've got this wiring now. It's been fed up through here. It's going up the frame beside the window and it's coming out up here. Now it was a pain, obviously, because it's quite a flexible wiring. To feed it up that channel, it just wasn't happening. So unless you've got a cable finder, a puller, I haven't, It's something I've been meaning to get, but I haven't got one. So what we did, we attached a piece of low gauge flex, copper flex wire, normal household wire, lighting wire, and we attached the end to that. We fed the flex through this hole first, down there, down into this hole, taped it together like so, and then we just gently pulled and fed it through and up to this point. I would suggest each car is different in regards to where the control box goes, so the main part of it is to determine exactly where the box goes. Get both strut wires through and fed up first, that way you can see where they're going to finish and where they're going to be situated, and you want the control box pretty much central to both of these strut wires. Okay, so now we've got the strut wires through both columns. So we've got this one over here, which is the right hand side, and we've got the left hand side coming over here like so. Obviously the wires travel down the trunk, the inner skin of the tailgate. They come down here and they secure with a little bungee on both sides. So that's how it needs to be looking. If you've got that far, then you've done it all correctly. So the next part would be to connect the loom wire, which is the catch wire. What you do is you find this here, this loom coming from the catch, and you connect the wire that comes with the kit. Okay, so this is the wire here. As you can see, it goes there, and it comes with two connectors, which is this one there and this one there. Plug that connector into the original loom that goes to the catch, and then plug the other connector into the connector that come off that loom. Okay, so you've got two connectors going in. It forms like a bridge, basically a bridge. Okay, after that, feed the wire over so it comes over to this side, and then you've got this remaining set of wires coming down from there. Now this wire here, that's got the yellow wire. The yellow wire needs to go along the length of the car and attach into the fuse box. Okay, that's why it's so long. However, that connector that you see there is to go into the control box, which is just there, and the other wire, which is this one right there, that is to be fed over here to this hole, and that is to connect to your new tailgate switch, which is there. So let me just get that out, I'll show you. So this is the new tailgate switch, as you can see, and that tailgate switch with the trim on is going to go into that hole. Okay, and that little wire connects onto this one just here. Okay, so this is the end of the button, connects into this just here. The other wire that's dangling down, which is this one here, okay, so we've been trying to figure out exactly where to put the box in relation to the wires. So what we've actually decided to do here is the wire that's coming from the right hand side, it goes up, it comes past the light cluster, it comes along, and it's dangling down just there, and that goes into the control box, just there. So we've got this wire, this is for the right hand strut, going down into the control box. And for the left hand struts, we've got a wire coming up the post. You can see it's just there, coming over. We've fed it over this way, and that comes along to where the control box is going to sit. And then that one has, which is just here, is plugged straight into the control box there. The control box we are going to mount into this space. You can just see the Velcro strip just up here, and it's going to be mounted into there and secured into place, which is probably the best location for this. We did consider here, but in relation to the two little wires that I was talking about before, that would put these two short. The other wires we've got, obviously we've got the ACC wire, which is here. That's the one that goes along the length of the car inside the trims and attaches to your fuse box. So we've got that in place as well, plugs in. That's all part of, if you remember, this loom here. This other wire that we've got in place now, that is the interior switch wire. So we've plugged that in, and we've got the whole length of this wire, and that goes along the interior of the car. So that's going to come along here, come down into this little bundle here, and then it's going to come down, and it's going to go along down to the driver's side and connect into a new switch that we'll put in a little while. So at the moment, the yellow wire will feed along the left side of the vehicle, and it will go down past the passenger seat into a fuse box that's located on the passenger side. The bigger loom wire, this is the switch wire, the internal switch wire, that will run all the way down the driver's side to the switch. Now the only bit of wiring we need to be putting in place now is the actual power wire, which is this long wire here. You can see it's got a purple connector, separated into two wires, just there. At the end of these two wires, you've got the ground, and you've got the permanent live, which is a bullet connector, and that is literally fed into the fuse connector, which is supplied, which I can't find at the moment. Oh, it is. So this is the fuse wire that goes straight into your fuse box as well. So you've got two wires, the yellow and this red one, which is the bullet one. It's black, but obviously it is red at the end. Those two wires are the two wires that are going to be fed on the left hand side of the vehicle. So we need to be connecting, the best thing to do, I would say here, would be to connect the purple power wire into the box, which is the last connection left on the box. Okay, and then by doing that we can put the box back into place, secure it into place, and we can start spreading the wires and taping them together to form a loom. Okay, so we've now progressed a little further. So what we've done now is that we've installed the actual control box into position using the Velcro pad and adhesive that's supplied with the kit. We have attached all the cables, including the power cable, which was the purple coloured connector, and we have fed the wires. And the way we've done this, we've got both of the strut wires going straight. This one coming straight along and into the box, and then obviously this one, as I've already said, straight along and into the control box. Now, with the yellow wire and the power wire, which is the purple connecting wire, obviously that has a ground with it as well. So the ground part of that wire comes inside and it comes around here. The wire is actually really long. It's come across here, and we've taken out some slack through this, and then we come along and we've come out here, come across this loom, and we've connected straight into the ground connector on the back of the tailgate there. So that's the ground wire. The other wire, which is for permanent live, and also the yellow wire from the tailgate strut connector, we have taped them together, and we have come across this way through here and down there, and you can see it's coming out here. So we've taped them together, put some tape around them, and we've come along here, and we've come along the inside of the frame, and as you can see, the yellow wire and the black wires just here. It comes down, comes along, and comes down through the actual wiring sleeve down here, and comes out through here, and we've got both wires now coming through on that direction. Now these wires are going to be coming along now and down, and we're going to go across to the along to the front passenger side. And as you can see, these wires, so the two wires, if you've done this correctly, the two wires that you should have coming this way are the yellow wire, which is there, and the red coloured constant 12-volt wire, which is there. So they're the two wires that are going along the passenger side. On the other side, we've come along with the switch that goes to the driver's side. We've come along, we've plugged it into the control box, and we've come out, and you can see the wire just here, just there. We follow this loom, come along there, down through the same little wiring harness down here, out through there, and that's the wire coming out, and that's going to be going this way because obviously it's going along the driver's side, and that is the connector box block. That's the connector block for the switch that will be installed near the driver's steering wheel, roughly around that area, in a blank space that we'll have a look at later. This harness is really difficult to get wires through. It's really tight, especially when you've already got quite a few wires going through it. Obviously we've got rear cameras installed on this, which goes through that harness as well, so there's an extra wire in that harness from factory. The only thing I can suggest is just gradually feed the largest wire through first, and then the two smallest wires. So we fed the switch wire, the driver's switch, release switch first, because that had the connector on it. So that was the hardest one to get through because obviously the connector is quite big. And then we fed the black wire, which is for permanent life, through, and once we got that through, we connected the yellow wire to the black wire by a bit of tape, and we just pulled them through together, which made the job a lot easier. This could be a little bit stubborn to come out. You just need to very carefully just prise away around it just to get it out, but do not cut this sleeve, okay, because this sleeve protects all your wiring circuitry, and if you cut that, then you're going to allow moisture and possibly water or whatever to get in there, and that could cause big problems with your wiring at some point later on. So don't be tempted to cut that sleeve and just poke the wires through, because that's not the way you should do it. Persevere, push them through, they will go through. It's quite a nice flexible tube, so the wires will go through there. Just persevere with it. It's a bit of a pain in the neck, but you can do it. So at this stage we've got the struts in, we've got the wiring for the struts in, we've got the control box in, we've got all the wires connected. We've run the wires, we're going through, we're now going into the actual car itself with the wires. So you've only got the 2 wires here. That's going to go along the passenger side, and then you've got the 1 wire that's going to be going along the driver's side. One thing you will need to do is you will need to peel off the rubber seal that's going around the trims and the edge of the frame. You're not going to get the wires in unless you get that off, so just be very careful where you do that. Don't rip it, don't tear it. Other than that, that's where we are at the moment. Okay, so now that we've run the those wires, at this point you want to grab the wiring loom for the foot sensor, and you want to run the green wire only through the same conduit through here, up there, and make it come out and run along with the rest of the wiring, as that green wire connects into the original tailgate switch wiring up here. So it's only the green wire that needs to be run. All the rest of the wires that we have, which is obviously the power wires, the yellow and red power wires, and the ground wire, they remain down below. So the only one to run from the foot sensor wire will be the green wire only, and make sure you do that whilst you've got all this apart, so it makes the job a lot easier and you don't have to redo that later on. Might as well do it as we go, save wasting any more time and getting it done. So for now we are leaving the green wire where it is. What we actually need to do is now install the actual foot sensor and the yellow wire from the control box. So the main control box feed wire, which, if you remember, is the yellow wire and a permanent 12-volt supply. So what I've done at the moment is I have put these 2 wires along the edge, removed the rubber seal completely from the door, okay, and I'll put the wires down the edge, down the trim. You can just about see them in there, and then they're coming through next to the battery, okay. Then I'm going to go along under this trim and towards the front passenger side. There is, with the yellow wire, you need to connect that to the central locking switch wire, and I'll just show you where that is. So I'll remove the trims here. These trims are really easy to remove. They literally just pop out, so there's no hassle. And these wires are going to pop underneath this trim. This trim is a bit difficult to come out without removing the actual rear seat, so I'm hoping I can just get away with just tucking this wire underneath and then coming down and following this loom of wires underneath, go underneath there, and then come out here and come along and come up to this point. Now these are just trims as well. The glove compartment I've taken off. The instructions, if you get instructions, or if you look online, or if you try and see any tutorials online, it shows a fuse box just here. However, as you can see, there is no fuse box. Having spoken to the manufacturers, for fuse box location does vary. I've even tried to look at the driver's side, and again it's just a bunch of connectors and no fuses. So we might have a little bit of an issue with the connection of the ACC and the permanent supplies. So I might have to figure out a way around that, unless I can locate the fuse box. I'll have another look in a minute, but for now you want to know what the yellow wire connects to. So the yellow wire from the main control box will come along here, and you can see just here a white wire. It's right next to a black on the connector, and you can see that I have partially just bared the wire, cut a bit of a sleeve off. That is for central locking control switch wire. That is the wire that you are looking for, and that is the wire that you need. Okay, so the yellow wire from the control box, that also has the 12-volt permanent supply, comes along here, and the yellow wire of that joins onto that white wire just there. So before we go ahead and connect those wires at the front there and run them along, it'll be a good idea now to put the foot sensor wire and foot sensor in place, purely because the foot sensor, the wires for that are really simple, apart from the green which goes up to the tailgate. The rest of them, they are literally a permanent live wire, an accessory wire, so a switch live, and a ground. That's all it is. What you'll need to do is remove all the back panels. Okay, remove the floor panels down here, remove the spare wheel, use your little prizing tools, your little plastic prizing tools, just to prize off the little carpet that protects the back there, and you will see that just on this side, hopefully you'll be able to get the light to be able to see that, but just there you can see a little bunge. That's for the fog lights. Okay, so run the wire from the foot sensor, the one that has the connector on it, run it under and in between, and you will see that it comes out just down here. Okay, and the foot sensor itself will go just there on that part, and it will go inside. Okay, so not externally, it will go internally inside of this. Now, conveniently enough, when they supply you with the kit, they also supply you with a template, which is a stick-on template. And the reason why they give you that is because they give you screws as well to screw it on from underneath. When this is installed, it's going to be installed like that. So if you imagine that's inside right now, it will be installed like that. And then the screws, you have to drill a couple of screws through the bottom of the bumper, nice and carefully, and then just secure it in place. Okay, so we've fitted this sticker, the template of where it's going to go. Okay, which you can see there, and you can see that it has the drill marks just there. So position the sticker itself nice and evenly around this section, and get a small drill and drill a couple of little holes at the locations, and then you can remove the sticker after you drilled the holes. But just take your time, do it properly, and make sure it's nice and central into this little area here. Otherwise you're going to have a bit of a wonky fitting sensor. Okay, so before you secure the foot sensor up into your bumper, connect it first, otherwise that will be a bit of a nightmare trying to connect it once it's in place. And also note that when you actually connect, there are arrows, directional arrows on the casing of both connectors. Obviously make sure they're lined up, because there are 4 pins inside there, very small pins, and you want to make sure that these arrows are completely aligned so that it fits properly, and then do up the securing nut around it. So got the foot sensor in place. As you can see, it's secured with the 2 screws that come with it, and you can see how it's positioned within the bumper itself. At this stage, don't worry about tying up any cables, we can do that later. As the main point of this is to get it in place so that we can run the cables and get them joined up. But that is how it should be looking if you've done it correctly. Okay, so I've been trying to find a fuse box in which to wire up the ACC and the permanent supplies. Just couldn't find it to begin with. It's an absolute nightmare to try and find. I've taken the glove box off, which is actually quite easy, so it wasn't too much of an issue. And I still couldn't find it. And then, after getting on my back and bending myself like some sort of circus act, I actually managed to find it and locate the actual fuse box. And what you've got to do, you've got to take off the cover that's underneath here, which is just a few clips, and just there you can see the fuse box. So that is where we're going to run the wires. So the ACC wire for the control box, and the permanent the ACC wire for the kick sensor, the permanent 12 volt wire for the kick sensor, the 12 volt permanent wire for the control box, for tailgate control box, and the yellow switch wire will come along all here and come up behind this and connect to the fuse box in that way. So all we've got to do is just find an ACC, which is the main one at the moment. It's quite obvious where the others are. Like I said, the yellow wire that comes with the tailgate kit goes onto that white wire there. So we'll get cracking, we'll start laying the wires, and then we'll start connecting. Okay, so a quick update to the wiring situation. The 2 wires, which is the yellow wire and the power wire from the control box, I've thread through here. I've come along here, come down the edge, and I've come in through this side here, and it comes down where the battery is, runs along and goes all the way along that way. Okay, the sensor wire, the foot sensor wire, the loom for that, I have put it all the way through. Removed this trim, which is really easy, it just pops out. Remove that, fed the wire along, and I've joined it on in here where these wires from the control box come down. I've taped them together so it forms one loom, and that too runs all the way along into there. The driver's switch wire, obviously I've come this way, come all the way down, and basically done the same thing. So came down, tucked it in, and I have come in through here, and I've gone along here, so you can see that there is absolutely no trace of a wire whatsoever. It's all tucked inside the trims, so it's nice and neat, and you don't see the wires. The only thing that I have found, and I don't know whether this is an issue, I don't know whether these kits are designed for left-hand drive vehicles, I don't really know. I thought, well, let's go through the problem first. So the length of the wires, so I have had to install the control box up in here purely because the length of this strut, the wire that comes to it, is only long enough to come up to about this point. It's not longer to come up to over here. Okay, the weird thing is that this strut, the wiring for this strut, is longer and it's able to reach over there. Now you may think to yourself, well, you must have put the struts on wrong, i.e. that strut here must be over onto here, that way the wire would fit. But this is it, each strut is labelled L and R. Okay, this is the right hand side of the vehicle, this is the left hand side of the vehicle. It's even noted in the hinges L and R. I don't quite know whether the camera's picking it up, but you can see L and R on the hinges, so you know that you're fitting the right strut. So this is the right hand strut to the right hand side of the vehicle, and this is the left hand strut to the left hand side of the vehicle. I don't really know whether it'll make any difference if you was to swap them round. The only issue I could see is possibly that the wiring would be on the outer edge, and that would be pretty tight for that to come in. As it is, it fits in quite nicely within here. So I don't know, but as a consequence of that, and even though we've run the wires, we could have probably run them a little bit more. As you can see here, it's here, maybe run it a bit more direct, saved a bit of space just in this part here. But it's worked out that the wire for the control box and the yellow wire are both too short, which is odd. I would show you, however, as you can see, it is raining hard out there. So I'm not going to open the doors and expose the wiring, but the wiring, it goes through past the slider door here, and it goes up to the passenger door, and it only goes up to about literally a third of the way into the passenger door. So I'm going to have to make some bridge wires to compensate for the shortness and attach them to the fuse box. So I don't know whether it's because these kits are designed for left-hand drives, which would make sense. I don't know, or whether you can actually just swap these, but they have been fitted right to right, left to left. So as far as I'm concerned, the struts have been fitted according to how they should be fitted. It's just that the wiring loom is too short, which is a bit of a strange one. Anyway, so I'm going to crack on, do a bit more, and then we'll do an update video afterwards. So as you can see, I've come along under this trim with the wires, hidden completely underneath. Come along here, and you can see the wires just coming out here. And we come along there, And if I move the chair back, you can see the wires nicely tucked into that little conduit. Coming along here, taped them up, prices under the pillar trim, and then they come out here and come along. And this is where obviously they're too short. So you've got the live from the control box, and you've got the yellow wire that connects to the white wire, and they're both too short. However, the actual foot sensor wire, which is this one, that's definitely long enough. Okay, so with the driver's side button wires, I don't know, is that the same as the other side? I've come under the trim, the chair, so I'll come under this trim, underneath there, wire comes out just here, and I've pulled it all the way through. As you can see, it flows along inside this gully, comes out, goes under the pillar trim, and then out the other side and along to the driver's part. Now I know that this cable, considering where the box is, the control box is, it's more on this side than it is on the passenger side, so I can understand the passenger side maybe being a little bit out with the wires, but this, I'm not entirely sure this is going to reach up into here, which is going to be that one. So considering that this button that they supply you with, it's obviously got to go into that space just there, the wire to it isn't exactly long. So looking at where the wire goes down, that wire, this one, has got to come all the way along, it's got to come up. It's got to go up inside enough to connect to this button. I'm not entirely sure that's going to be long enough. I don't know. It's going to be tight. So I don't really know. Maybe they just don't supply enough length of wiring. Or maybe it is enough for most vehicles, but obviously because this is an Alphard, it's longer. Maybe it's just not enough. I don't know. It's not as if I've gone around a load of corners with it and used up a load of the length. It's been pretty much direct. Okay, so back over to the passenger side. I have extended the main 12 volt cable from the control box using a red wire, and I've extended the yellow wire. The only colour I've got is blue. I haven't got no yellow, so I've used blue. Even the red's still connected to the spool at the moment, purely because obviously I don't quite know how much of that I need to use to go out there. So I'll leave that connected. The blue wire will now connect onto the white wire, which is just there. What's important to remember, if you actually do this, make sure that you use a wire that is at the correct amperage, i.e. the red wire that's coming from the control box is a 20 amp wire. So make sure that if you do any extension, that you are using a 20 amp wire. Okay, the one coming from the foot sensor, well, it's only got a 2 amp fuse in it, and this is a 3 amp wire. That's the blue one, so that should be more than appropriate. Okay, so I've taped the wires up, taped all the connections that I made, I've touched it underneath, taped it to the existing loom, that way you can't even see it. The only wires you can see is these here. And then I have cut the other wires to fit, as you can see, they're going up behind this block connector here, and they're going to be going out there. But I have connected the blue wire now, which is the original yellow wire, okay, which is the central locking signal wire. I have connected that up to the white wire. All I did was strip this a little bit, just so I can get a proper good connection instead of it being right by the block, and got that in place and twisted it all on, dropped a little bit of solder on there just to solder it on, and that's nice and tight now. So the next step, I'm just going to put a bit of tape around here, bring these together, a little bit of tape around that where I nicked it just to test it, put this sleeve back on, and then it's to the fuse box itself. Okay, so we have tied up the wires, insulated them, and I have run the ground wire up the back here and bolted it onto this here, so the ground should be good. That's the ground to the sensor, the kick sensor, and then we've got these 3 wires left. So that's the constant 12 from the unit, from the control unit. That is the constant 12 for the kick sensor, and that is the accessory or switch live for the kick sensor. So all we've got to do now is find the appropriate fuses in which to plug them into. Obviously what I've got to do as well is that the kick sensor, both the lines on there have inline fuses, so I need to make sure there's enough gap between taping and whatnot to ensure that they can be changed out if they need to be changed at some point. Okay, so I've removed the blank to put in the new switch, as you can see there. In order to be able to get access to be able to do this, one, we've got to take off the bottom cowling just down here, so a few clips, a couple of screws. Two, if you've got an ETC disk drive, you've got to take out the little cubby of that, which is again just squeezing the sides and put it out. But you do have to take off the steering cowling as well, because you need to put your hand behind, and it's quite tight behind there, to push out the old blank switch, because otherwise it's really tight and you could end up damaging the actual material around it. So just take that off, a couple of screws, and pop it out. As I sort of suspected, the cable that they supply to go to the switch is too short, only by, I'd say, 6 to 12 inches at most, but it is too short. Bear in mind that it's got to go behind this series of blocks and up, and then round and up to the switch. I don't know whether that was going to be picking it up, but it's got to go up that way, and the wire on the switch is definitely not long enough to reach. So what I've done is I've cut 3 bits of wire same length, as you can see, and that should be more than enough. That's the end of the wiring loom that they supply you, and then I've solder jointed the 3 joints, as you can see, and then that should give us the ability to run this cable up to the switch and back down to where it actually connects, and then I can just cut these down a little bit if they're too long. But yeah, so that's possibly what you may have to do. You might not have to, you might be lucky, it might just reach, I'm not sure, I don't know why this is not long enough. It's supposed to be for the Alphard, this kit, And like I say, the control box is over this side. It's over this side, so the wire is running literally through this hole, and it's running round this bit, and you can just sort of see it there. And it's running round there, down, and literally straight down and along. So it's not as if I've gone round loads of little corners and used up all the cable. I've used what I needed to make it run to the front of the car, so I don't really know why that's too short, but it is what it is. You just have to adapt. Alright, so the new switch is in. I fed the wires from the switch hole down around the back of this connection. There's block connectors down here, down to the bottom, and as you can see, it comes along here. Looking at the original wire, that's where it went to. Just there, where I cut it, and that there is where the other part of it is. So you can see that is, yeah, about 10 to 12 inches roughly too short. Well, I don't know whether that's a common issue. No idea. But anyway, it's done, so all we've got to do now is just cut these blue wires down, join them onto this one, and tape it all up and start putting it all back together. So the wiring is complete, everything is all nice, neat and tidy, it's all connected and runs along nice and neat there along that conduit there. One thing I will say, if you are going to extend the wire, and like me you've had no choice but to use one coloured wire, make sure you know which colour of the original loom matches up. So what I did, I put a little coloured pen mark on each of the blue wires, so I knew which was red, which was black and which was yellow, and that helped me just join them up later on. Otherwise, if you tape them up, you're not going to know which colour goes to where. So make sure you get the colours right, don't wire it up wrong. So that's all done. Now it's just time to put all the trims back, and the driver's side switch is complete. Okay, so I've got it all now connected. It's all in the fuse box, as you can see there. Hopefully it's not too dark. So the wiring, the main loom for the control box goes into a 30 amp fuse, so make sure you find a 30 amp as a continuous supply, so that's a permanent 30 amp supply. The accessory for the foot sensor I've put into the cigarette lighter fuse, as that's an accessory, and I have plugged the permanent continuous into a 15 amp continuous fuse as well. The only issue is, because of the way the wiring is and the way the extended and additional fuse terminals gone in, you won't be able to put the little cover back on the fuses. This is not too much of an issue. I mean, it's not going to get dirty or anything like that, so maybe just put that to one side for reference for later on, stick it in the fuse box, in a glove box or something, I don't know. But yeah, so that's the wiring all done. All we've got to do is just tidy it up a little bit and put all the trims and the glove box back on. So just finishing off the wiring for the tailgate itself. You've got this, it looks like a crocodile connector, just here. That connects onto the foot sensor key wire, the green one that comes from the foot sensor. Okay, so this actual lead, this crocodile one, is the one that joins onto the existing loom of the suction lock and the button on here. So that's the lead that comes off of there. I don't know whether yours will have this sort of crocodile clip. It may or may not. It may just be just a stripped wire. But you'll need to connect that. If you haven't got the foot sensor, you need to connect that to the permanent live on the tailgate switch. So the one that's by the number plate. You want to find the loom for that and connect it to the permanent live. Now for me, you can see I've stripped a couple and I've had to test them to find out which one was what, and for me it turned out to be the grey wire, as you can see there. So for you it may be a bit different. You just have to get a multimeter and test. But yep, so that's done. Everything's working as it should. So we've got, if I just show you, we've got the trim button that will go on once the trim's on, and if I press that, you see that that's now nicely fitted. You see that the tailgate light is on, but that's because the tailgate is just shut. It takes a few seconds for that to go off, as you can see. So if I press the tailgate switch, get 2 beeps, and the tailgate rises up. And if I was to press it again, then it will close. So I'll press it again, 2 beeps. And the tailgate shuts. Now with a foot sensor, there we go. And it's all complete. Buttons in, trims are back on. You can see absolutely no wiring whatsoever. Just how it should be. And we are done. Everything works.